Well, hello neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome again to my kitchen table. I'd like to talk to you about a quite available release from a very fine distillery. This is the Macallan Amber. Well, thanks for staying with me through the introduction. This is the first Macallan that I've reviewed on the channel, which is, really surprising, right? Because if you were to pick a few people off the street that knew not that much about Scotch and ask them, name a distillery in Scotland or a brand or someone that you might recognize with Scotch, and the Macallan's probably going to be high on the list. And I will say the reason is they are they're pursuing quality with their distillery. Another reason is Macallan is priced usually quite high. And I know that, when I'm listening on usually the Whiskey Cast with Mark Gillespie, and he's talking about these record bottle numbers. Oh, I should have looked that up, but it'll be, I don't know, $750,000, $1 million bottle. And those bottles will almost always be a special 50-year-old Macallan that had a artist painted label or something like that. So, they get a lot of press being kind of the most expensive out there. But bring it down to earth, down to where, we talk on the channel. One of the reasons why I really haven't reviewed a lot of Macallan is they are priced a little bit more than I usually pay for Scotch. This, however, was a gift. And it's a good opportunity to review it on this channel for the viewers here because actually I see this often on sale now. So that makes it really quite affordable. So is it any good? Well, very quickly, a little bit about this series. This is the Macallan Amber, as I said, and it's the 1824 series. Came out a while ago, 2012. And that was kind of when... Well, I'm not sure the impetus exactly, but it was really when a lot of distilleries were releasing no age stamp scotches, right? They call them NASs or whatever. And where they tried to emphasize, it's the quality that's going in, it's the taste that we're going for. It's not, specifically the age. And we still see lots of NAS bottles today, and many of them are just fantastic. Some of them are my favorites. But I think as a general line or a general approach, I don't think it's sold as well as they'd like it to. In that line, this 1824 line, they had, their entrance was gold, and then amber, that's this one, then sienna, and then ruby. And each one really got darker, and the description, of course, applied to that, right? Kind of a golden lighter, amber, sienna, and ruby. You got darker. It was implied that they would be a little bit older, but certainly they were longer in oak or longer in casks or picking up more flavors, maybe more coloring. And that's also how the expense was, right? The least expensive was gold all the way up to ruby. What else can I say? This is, as I said, the second one up. It's 40% alcohol by volume. It's natural color. And it is certainly darker than the entrance, the gold. It's thought that it's because more of this whiskey spent its life in first fill sherry. Not necessarily that it was in the ex-sherry casks longer, but that it was first fill, if that makes any sense. I should say Macallan is known for their use of casks that have held sherry previously. And they're also known they're totally known for their wood management. They are fanatical about, acorn to tree to building the casks, to filling it in sherry in Spain, and then bringing it up to Scotland to age their whiskeys just the way they'd like it to. They even have a fellow who is a master of wood. And most distilleries, all distilleries will have people involved in wood management. They often have a cooper, the person, building the casks or reassembling the casks, depending if they're shipped across the ocean and pulled apart before they come. But I think Macallan, at least when I'm thinking Stuart McPherson, I think is his name. I've seen his name around. Being the master of wood is really celebrated as someone who spends just as much time in Spain looking at the wood management going on there and the filling in sherry as in Scotland, looking at bringing the good wood back to Scotland to age the whiskey. So they're known for their wood management. If you go to their website, you will see, I think they call them the 6 pillars of Macallan. The ones that I find interesting, I've already highlighted. I think wood management should come to mind when you think of the Macallan. Also, that use of ex-sherry casks, I think, should come to mind. I think all of their whiskeys are touched by sherry at some point. They use some ex-bourbon now and whatnot. The other thing would be they have very short stills, and they would argue that keeps a lot of the fruity notes in it. It doesn't get very light and ethereal spirit. That it keeps some of the chewier fruity notes. And they, like many distilleries in those 6 pillars, will also talk about how they discard the heads. They just keep that really thin or narrow center cut and discard the tails. And I'm sure that's true. But there's lots of distilleries that are certainly working very hard at finding the cut that represents the flavor they're going after. So that's the history. Think wood, think ex-sherry. This one, as I said, is lighter at 40%. It does say right on it that all of the oak is coming from, I hope it said Jerez, Spain, and that it's ex-sherry casks. I do know that before it got to Spain, though, some of that is American oak and some of it is European oak. Well, let's see how it smells and tastes. That was quite the intro. This is a pretty gentle nose for a Scotch. Sweet. Quickly for me, I'm getting citrus, but towards orange, so a softer, sweeter citrus note, not sharp, not lemony. A little bit of, what else would be sweet? Honey sweetness. If there's more fruit in there, oh, there we go. Like a raisin, but not very leathery. More like a juicy raisin. And then a little bit of cinnamon there. Yeah, so approachable, appealing, gentle, not mind-blowing, nothing that changes your world just by smelling it. But nice. Let's see how it tastes. Cheers. A really nice full palate experience. So up front again, a lot of the same things that you smell come in pretty quick. So it's sweet, a little bit fruity, maybe some apple in there. And then as you bring it back in your mouth, or you hold it longer, or just as you're swallowing, I find there's some spice. Not really peppery spice, but a little bit of baking, a little bit of cinnamon, actually a fair amount of cinnamon. And so when you take that high sweetness, the sugars, the brown sugar and the apple, and then you add cinnamon, and maybe there's a cereal note or a grain note. You can think of some baked things. It's kind of like that, a little baked. For me, it's not peppery, so it's not spicy. It's pleasantly coating during the mid palate, but not oily or chewy. Just, it's nice in the mouth. And when you swallow it and start to talk like I am right now, that's when some of the wood really starts to say hello. That to me is when I feel sort of an oakiness, a wood tannin. That's when the high fruit, the high sweet starts to turn into that deeper leathery fruits. Just going to give another quick taste. Yeah, I have noticed, not in a quick sip like that or a short video like this, but if I'll pour a dram, have an evening, and then maybe pour another dram of the same, have nothing else, I find that the wood that I'm catching at the end in the finish actually starts to build up a little bit. and even gives an impression of an older wood that I kind of like. It's on that edge. It plays that line between kind of that, that bitter, musty old wood, but it's really not strong enough to get there, but it's enough to keep me kind of interested. So, thoughts on the Macallan Amber. First, what it comes out for, sits on the shelf, the price range, it to me doesn't give me a big enough experience, high enough fruits or cooked enough sugars or deep enough wood for the kind of price that it sat on. However, as I said, because they've discontinued this line, I've definitely seen this in several stores in my area for a pretty decent price. Is it a good Scotch? Yeah, I think it's a fairly gentle Scotch. This might appeal to someone earlier on in their Scotch journey, or someone who really just likes to have that kind of dessert Scotch while they're talking and sipping, and not something that's terribly complicated or terribly aggressive that kind of takes over your experience. So now what you're doing is sipping Scotch, not having a Scotch while you're doing something else. If you could follow me. Anyways, this was a gift. And, Ian, thank you so much for giving it to me. It was a real pleasure. It is a pleasure to enjoy it. Rating for me, still, I want to give it more. It has good flavor, but it's just not going to get me off the couch. I'm not going to be buying another bottle. So it really can't get off more than about 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. It's probably worth more. I probably, just currently, I'm into sort of bigger, bolder, brasher flavors. And this is not that, but this is still a very flavorful dram, an excellent representation of a space side, and there is fruits from ex-sherry in here and quite enjoyable. So, I've tried to hedge my bet, tried not to tick off Macallan fans, but for me, it sits at about that 3.5 out of 5. If you're looking for a little more sherry and priced better, I can't say enough about the Glendronach 12. In my neck of the woods, it sits about $50. This on sale, $65. It sits on the shelf at $80, $85. Excuse me, at $50, that Glendronach 12 has, for me, more of the fruit that I'm looking for. It has a bolder flavor profile that I really do appreciate. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for dropping in. I hope everything's going well for you. Work for me is crazy, but I'm glad I had a few minutes to share a little bit with you guys. You guys take care.